So I was almost done with the video, and then a bunch of news hit the market, and right now futures are melting down to the floor. Let's dive into what just happened and what this means for the current situation at hand. So this is literally just now hitting the news, so we're going to read this together. Risk assets are sharply lower, futures in euro tumbling, offset by a flight to safety, which is treasuries, the dollar, yen, and gold soaring after reports that Russia started shelling Ukraine's, I can't say that, nuclear power plant, Europe's largest, which accounts for 1/4 of Ukraine's power generation, and has caught fire. I've also seen reports, let's see if they say it here, this is a real threat of nuclear danger, the biggest atomic energy station in Europe. This is so rough. So the big thing here is that, yes, Russia supposed to immediately cease fire, allow firefighters to establish a security zone. This is really troubling. Russia is targeting the firefighters who are trying to put out the fire at the nuclear site. This is a very large nuclear reactor. We've obviously seen what happens when these destabilize and these situations get out of control, on top of the fact that this horribly hurts Ukraine's infrastructure, their energy, and remember, Ukraine is also a huge resource for all, gas and oil and uranium, and so for them to get hit with all of this and destabilize all that is extremely troubling. And as it says here, this is literally 10 times larger than Chernobyl. The big thing here that I want to kind of touch on is historically the things that we've seen Russia do. We've seen Russia invade Syria, and they were purposely targeting different medical centers and hospitals, and food supply and the water supply. And their goal there was, which is completely a war crimes, was to basically starve the people out and cut off their resources until they surrender. And this seems to be a setup for that type of situation. And this is really troubling to see, especially since earlier today we got news that there was apparently a ceasefire and that Russia would let civilians leave the cities. And now we're seeing this. So this is extremely troubling. There's going to be a new reaction to this, and this actually brings the greater. This looks like going over futures, but this really starts to bring a whole other situation to mind, because there needs to be a point where we sit back and say, okay, at what point can this situation get to before we feel like we have to act? And just earlier today, it kind of seemed like the situation was kind of calming down and we're coming to some resolutions. We saw that the ceasefire was done and civilians were starting to be moved out of the major cities and into Poland and different European areas where they could be safe and away from the conflict. And it seems like Russia's breaking this, or it's hard to know what's actually going on. There's so much information. There's so many different reports. This leader said that leader said this, and at the same time we're having all this economic volatility. There's so many things we have to worry about at home, so many things to worry about China and the Middle East, and part of this conversation that's developing is also some geopolitical experts are saying, like, the U.S. doesn't have the defense budget to watch this many things at once. In the Middle East is this kind of like lingering issue that I haven't even touched on, but that situation could also destabilize really easily, and we're also funding different conflicts in different areas as well. So this is turning into just such a mess. It's really, really hard for me to think that the world looks anything like it does today in even a matter of a few months. This is really starting to get more and more concerning, and we're seeing that reflected in markets as well. The VIX has been maintaining over 30, pretty well, defending that. We saw a double bottom on the SPY. We're going to blow right through that according to futures. We'll have to see how this continues to develop, but this already seems like this situation is past the point of repair. If we're not able to contain these fires and something more violent happens with this nuclear reactor, it's 10 times larger than Chernobyl. So, I'm not going to theorize on what happens because I'm not a nuclear engineer. I definitely can't speak to that. I just know bad. Just remember, this is wartime. Propaganda is rampant. It's hard to get information. Even if it isn't propaganda, it could be inaccurate just because everything's so rapidly changing. Right now, what I'm reading is that there are some reports that 2 of the 3 reactors have been safely shut down, which is great, but we still remember how much energy this provides to Ukraine and how destabilizing this can be to their infrastructure. And so so they're already getting berated. We're getting hit with cybersecurity attacks, which we haven't been reporting on enough, and we also today, I don't want to breeze over what also happened in Taiwan today, which had massive blackouts. Whether that was related to a cybersecurity attack, if that was an energy thing, the reports didn't really say. It looks like it was still being investigated, but we need to keep updated on these things, because these things could easily develop. That could have been a test for China, just like the Colonial Pipeline, which I've been speculating on. Would keep clear that this is some speculation on this, and even what's currently going on in Ukraine. I'm just trying to keep up with the news as it comes out and trying to keep you informed. And so the ripple effects of this, though, could easily send these energy prices back up, and a lot of people have gone short on them. So, and I shared that report over on the Twitter and in the Discord. Make sure you're in the Discord. You can keep up with all this stuff in real time. And so that report showed that a lot of people are short on energy. If we see this situation develop, then we get more energy issues, we could see a squeeze. And I don't want to seem like I'm being callous about the situation. This is a very sad situation. I hate to see this, but I'm going to correlate this back to the markets, because that's what I'm here for. All right, I'm your market guy. So when we're looking at this, I'm thinking these energy prices could easily hit new highs now. And I think the market's definitely going to melt down. I've been feeling really bearish. I mean, it's hard to be bullish in this environment. We saw a double bottom on the SPY, but I don't expect that. I didn't expect that to hold before this occurred. So now this is even looking more catastrophic. And I guess we should go ahead real quick, touch on what happened over the past 2 days with Powell. And I wanted to do a video yesterday, but honestly, not much changed other than the fact that the Fed pushed off the roll off of the balance sheet, which I think this is tapering and quantitative easing and then buying debt products. And I feel like that this is really giving a situation. Well, it's bullish. That's what we're saying. It's definitely bullish, but it's bullish for all the wrong reasons. This is such a volatile world, not even just the U.S. economy. It's like, to trade in this market, you basically have to be a macroeconomist. Jeez. But even then, it's like I'm trying to reach out and look at what different geopolitical experts are saying, and they're just as confused as everyone else. After all this conflict is done, it's like, what is Russia's goal even? They can't hold Ukraine with the forces they have. It's clear that Putin didn't anticipate this much defense or this amount of sanctions on Russia. He's even fired different military leaders because of how the situation has developed. So this mess is just getting even worse. I think we'll see this reflected in markets, who kind of thought that they had everything priced in. I think they're about to get a rude awakening. And, when it comes to the Fed and them wanting to pull back and say, okay, 25 base point raise, I just think that that's going to go back to being background noise until we actually start to see our economy get hit, which, by the way, I'm anticipating that we could see a slowdown come around spring. That's what I've heard a lot of people say. And, when it comes to the jobs numbers have been good, but we have seen a contraction when it comes to services. So that is usually should be keeping up with the rest of the market, with the rest of the jobs market. But that's not keeping up, and we're actually seeing a contraction there when there was supposed to be all this hiring and all these jobs available. That is really concerning to see. And so if this economy destabilizes, it could easily turn into a bigger issue. If energy prices continue to stay high, they hit everything. And food quickly follows energy. Everything else follows all of that. So it could be persistently higher than anticipated. I know last year when the word transitory was going around, I was in the transitory camp, and I quickly had to pivot out. And so, which is very important, as especially in an environment like this. This is the worst time to have strong convictions. And you know what? That might not even be the best way to say that. I think now is the time to have strong convictions, but loose hands. I'm not going to hold anything if it starts to turn on me, or if this market starts to turn, or these situations start to get worse. I'm not going to, no diamond hands in this environment. I don't want to be hodling anything into, a potential World War III, which I'm not saying that this is developing into a World War III by any means, not yet. But to be brutally honest, as I've said before, I don't see any clean way out of this. I don't see how this gets peacefully resolved. I mean, Russia is already invading. Usually negotiations after that don't go well, as we continue to see. And I got my hopes up today, and boy, did those get smashed. And we're going to cap the episode there. Remember, if you follow me on the social medias at Nobel Trading, I'll try to keep updates coming out. Discord's the best place to keep updated on everything going on. And if you're a trader right now, this is like I said, you want to write up potentials, and then you want, if something happens that you don't anticipate, don't be too quick to trade it, because you don't know how the market's going to react, and you don't know the ripple effects. This is exactly one of those situations when I see a gap down tomorrow, and then we see things get resolved, the market just immediately explodes up. So just keep an eye on that. Make sure you watch the bonds, see how long-term growth expectations are. Right now they're still good, but I think that could change quickly for the reasons that I iterated earlier. We're going to need to constantly update and reevaluate our consensus on this situation, though, which, by the way, let's be very clear, right now I don't really have a consensus on anything. I'm watching the tape. By tape, I mean like the price action on the stocks, and also the news drops that are coming in, and I'm kind of just letting it play out, playing small in my positions. I'm going to continue to do this on my long-term account. If we do see some sort of meltdown, I'll likely hold through that because I like my allocations. I'm heavy in minerals and Brazil and Latin America, and also in energy. I still like uranium as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. That's where my positions are. That's how I'm playing this situation. I hope you found this informative, and I really hope that we can find a clean way out of this. So hopefully on the next episode we'll have some more positive news.